This time on the Random Junk channel, we're going to go over how to get rid of this box from your display. Now, this is the Parma 56 battery box. You might have a Limax battery box. The smaller ones that look like that with the 4-volt, which doesn't have the cover on it. And there's the cover. So, but anyhow, the principle is the same. Normally, on a Limax, this would be attached to the unit itself, meaning that there'd be a wire right here that would come out and connect to the piece. And then on the Parma 56, this plugs into your piece, and then you can plug the battery box and you can plug the power from a 3-volt 2.5 millimeter jack right into it and then power your unit. So this principle works on both boxes. All right, so first, get rid of the cover. So I'm going to show you how to eliminate this box so that way you can have a cleaner display and you don't have to try and hide this massive box, or the Limax one, which is thinner, but it's still a large box. First thing you want to do is take the cover off. Now on a Limax, you got to rip the back off. So on a Limax, you got to so this is the front, and you have to rip this entire back off, and it's glued on the entire way, so it's a little bit harder. But on the Parma 56, you can just kind of stick a screwdriver in here where the tab goes, and you can usually just pry it up. Now if it doesn't want to pry up, you can carefully stick it next to the wire, and pry up from here, like that. You don't want to crush the wire or pinch the wire, because they use 2 dabs of glue there and 2 dabs of glue here with standoff pins, while Limax glues the entire thing together. It's a lot harder. So now you can see your internals. You have your switch, you have your power port, and then you have your battery connections. Next thing is we need to remove the AC port, which is held on with a little silver nut and a washer. And we're going to pull the top of the switch off. So the switch, this is just a like an escutcheon. It's basically just the covering for your switch. It pops off if you can get underneath it, like so. And then we just pull the stuff out. And what we do is now just cut off the battery. You can desolder it too. Might have to, there we go. Wow, that was really strong. And we cut off the switch from here and here. Now this side's already soldered on, so we're good. One less thing we have to do. Now I need to strip this. I need to get that piece of heat shrink off first before I could strip this. You can use strippers or you can use side cutters like I am right now. And then we want to expose the bare wire. And make sure you have your soldering iron up to temperature. Yes, you will need a soldering iron. It's the safest and best way to do this. And this one still has the hole, which I'm surprised. It's not full of solder. So I'm going to fish the wire through the hole in the middle of the tab. If your hole's not exposed, you can just solder right to the side of it like they did originally. It doesn't matter. I'm just using the hole because it'll hold the wire for me. And now, you just solder this on like so. Nice and fast. And there you go. That is how you get rid of the box, and now you can just plug your thing into it. But you can leave it like this, or you can wrap this in electrical tape, or you can wrap it in hot glue, literally just fill it with glue. I, on the other hand, like to do this. And this is how you can make eliminate your battery box from your piece, or make a small extension. Is this going to be too small? I think this black is too small. What about this guy? I usually put heat shrink on mine, but I'm wondering if I'm out of the right size. Actually, I have more heat shrink. Let's just see if this is it. There is a piece of solder right there that's blocking me from sliding. Let's see, we'll slide on now. It's a lot easier to slide it on from this side than it is from the other side. Trust me. I've done this a few times. It sounds counterintuitive. If you slide it in from the back has got a very squared edge. The front at least has a little bit of a chamfer. So once you get it over, it'll usually slide on pretty, well, not easy, but easier than going the other direction. Should have cut this down before I did this, because it's so long. So I normally don't use a piece this long, but I did, so that's what we're stuck with. You can use side cutters, or actually scissors are way easier. I usually just end up trimming off the excess, because I always make it too long intentionally, so that way I know I'm up to the edge. But I didn't mean to do the whole piece of heat shrink. Again, I usually cut it in half. So there you go. And now you got to heat shrink this thing on. So I'm going to use a heat gun. I usually use a lighter, but if you have a hair dryer, it does the same. Lighter works. Butane torch. There we go. Alright, so basically on your Lee Max or some Department 56, imagine this was your house end, and now you don't have this big bulky box anymore. Now you have that. You can use black heat shrink. My black heat shrink is too small. Here's my small heat shrink containers going by size. And the blue and the clear is the largest, and the black and the red is the next, so on and so forth. And the black is just too small. You can get black much larger. I'm sure I probably had a piece hiding around here somewhere. Yeah, so this is even way larger. But you can get it in colors. I would have used black if it was on my display, or white if it was a Christmas display. But there you go. That's how you remove this big bulky box without buying anything accessory-wise to delete the box. It's already in the box. You don't have to get anything else. So you have a spare washer and a spare finger nut. If you want, what I do with mine, and that's just what I do, is I just spin these back on. That way, if I ever need one, I can just go to my display and pull them off so I don't lose them and use it for something else. So if I have one with a battery box, I need to use the battery box and I lost the nut and it keeps falling inside, I have a spare nut and washer. There you go. And then this stuff, you can either try and keep as spare parts or just throw it away. It's a cheap switch. You really don't need the coil. This is just the trash from stripping the wire. So there is some waste involved, but you don't have this under your display anymore. Or in the case of Lemax, that on your display anymore. So like I said, Lemax is lower, but you can see it's longer. The profile's thinner, but it still takes up a lot of space. And that's how you can do a battery box delete relatively quick and easy. There are variations. You may not have the one that has this on the end of it. You may have, grab it. You might have this style from like Department 56. So you can see it's flush and you see the two screws. There's a circuit board in here and you have to desolder this from the circuit board. It's the same principle. Matter of fact, since we're not too terribly long, I'll show you. My electric screwdriver is in the other room. I'm not going to go get it to take two screws out. That would be a waste of time. Oh, never mind. This one doesn't have the circuit board. It's like hit or miss on these. They keep changing them. So on this one, it would be a much lower profile. We would just take this white wire and solder it where this red wire is right here, and you have a much lower profile plug. So we would cut the red wire, cut off the battery connector. So now this newer style has markings to tell you which is hot and which is not. And then we would solder here. This longer one would go here on the outside, and this shorter lead would go to the middle pin. There's three. So the side that has on this one that has the dashes goes to the middle pin, and the side that has nothing on it goes to this side, which would be, if you're looking at it from the front, the hole, the left. And this would take a much smaller piece of heat shrink to cover this up. It would be a much thinner profile. So that's this style. Now they also have this style where this is soldered to a circuit board. That's what I thought I just pulled out. And for some reason I can't find it. I had one. See. Now Lemax is the same way. They have them where they're just the connector, and sometimes there's something in the middle, like a resistor. Make sure you keep the resistor on some of them, or a transformer. They're making it more and more. Ah, there's the circuit board one. I knew I'd find it. Have to pop the switch cover off and make sure all the screws are out. So if you have this style, because the Department 56 seems to be the one that everybody's asking to remove these boxes because of their size. So once we remove this from the box, we just take these two wires, and these are the ones also marked. You can see the black stripes as an example. The black is hot, and the non-marked is the negative or not hot side. So you would need a soldering iron, and you have to get these 3 pads hot to remove this. And then this one you can just cut, or you can desolder it. You won't need the switch, and this is a thermal fuse. It's basically a capacitor that when it gets hot, it opens, and when it cools down, it closes. So that way, if there's a short, it'll open and close, and protect the power, the batteries, or the incoming power supply, whether it's, you know, from a single-headed 3-volt or a multi-headed 3-volt adapter, from overheating and burning. You can put this in line if you want. Most people don't. I normally don't because it's 3 volts. If it's animated, I would, but if it's just lights, I wouldn't, because the LED, when they normally don't short out, they burn out, they just pop, so there's no load. But so that's the other style. So you'll get the thin one that's on just soldered. You'll get the thin one that's on a small circuit board, which makes it probably easier to manufacture. And there's a single screw in the center, and it's labeled, so you know which is hot and which is not. There's a plus and a minus on this board, so you can just follow the track to the plus and the minus. Makes it, as an old term would be, blonde friendly. So you don't need the switch, but you can keep the switch for some other project. You can keep the whole battery box if you want, just as a backup parts container. You know, you can put all these pieces back inside, put the cover on, and say this is just parts in case the one that's on my centerpiece on my table battery, oh, the battery exploded and this thing's all corroded. Well, now you have a spare one to replace it with. That's why I keep them, because spare parts. So, but those are the different options. There's still 2 more styles that are very similar as far as how they have the inside of these boxes go. Like I said, this one on Lemax uses a transformer, because this was a 4.5 volt going to a 3 volt piece, so there's a step down. All you have to do on that one is put the resistors in it, or just make sure you put 3 volts into it, because they do have 3 volts in this 4.5 mil barrel jack, or 5.5 mil barrel jack too. And then they have them just like this, where it's just a wire going to a switch. So depending on which manufacturer, just open it up, and all the parts you need are inside. The only thing you may need is heat shrink and solder. If you don't have heat shrink, electrical tape, or even regular tape or hot glue works. As you just need something to insulate it. So if this was on your house, you now have more room. And if not, here is a 27-inch extension cord if you use a battery box like this. So if your 3-volt AC adapter is just a little too short, here's a 2-foot addition for you. So there you go. This is how to reuse what they send you, modify it to make it fit your village in a better fashion, so that way there's less stuff you have to try and hide, or easier when you need to have a short extension that you just don't want to go to Amazon or wait or figure out what parts you need to buy when it usually comes with your house. So, there you go. Other than that, that concludes this one. Any questions, comments, put them below. Till the next one.